Reggie.
TTT.
Here we are again. Last episode we had reading on the stool. We're going to keep it on the stool. We're going to stay here. And the reason why we're staying here so long because it's key. It's very key. And we don't get this right, we can't talk about anything else when it comes to education. So our driving question gets to be, how can parents stop failing their children? But I think it's more than parents. But I think we talk about the whole aspect of what happens outside of school. I think we got to pull coaches into play. I think we got to pull dance instructors into play. I think we got to pull mentors into play because we're talking about all those things that we need to do to emphasize how important not just education is, but reading is. So now that you have this thing we like to call a carrot that makes them all excited about being there, because every boy wants to be a professional football, basketball, baseball player. Every person wants to be an actor or writer, but you can't do any of those things without what? Reading. So we putting not just parents, but everybody into this bucket.
So we've always talked about the village.
Right.
And so I'm going to use the analogy of a village. Mm-hmm. We talked about the parent's role in education, being the number one educator in your child's life. We know what the teachers are doing, what they're trying to do, but again, they need support as well.
Right.
And so I know what you're saying as it relates to coaches and others. Mm-hmm. What are you doing? What do you value? If you value what I would like to say, academics less than you value how well that child plays on the football field. I'm reminded of Travis Hunter. I love my sports. And Travis Hunter is considered, if not one of the greatest college football players ever. He won the Heisman Trophy. But what really got me, and really when I saw the report that Travis Hunter, not only did he play great football on offense and defense, I watched that young man and his GPA, his grade point average, is like a 3.7, 3.8. See, to me, to do everything that he does and know that football players already don't have a lot of time to go and focus on other things other than, and for that young man to have such a high GPA, it's beyond just football. It's beyond just baseball, basketball, cheerleading, or what other.
So let's jump right into it. Last show we talked about those key points. We watched teachers do their job to the best of their ability, but what's our role to help those teachers out?
You're speaking as relates to coaches and to support the village.
Yeah.
So let me, before we talk about that, Tony, let me give you some additional statistics. Let's pick one sport. Let's take football. And all of us who played sports at an early age, every young person, in this case, every young male, thinks that he's good enough to play professional football, basketball, baseball, etc. Because that's the carrot. I love doing that. But I ask this question, when I just pick out football alone, do you know that out of every 100 kids that play football, only 7% are going to play, not pro, but only are going to participate in college football at whatever level? So out of every 100 kids, only 7 are going to play college football. And then when you think about going pro, less than 1% of the kids are going to play pro football. In other words, to earn a living doing it. This is beyond NIL and et cetera. And so I just say coaches have a responsibility. And if they don't, then I would tell you, you're not doing your part.
If I call your teacher and she said you didn't put forth effort, you didn't even try to do the work, or you didn't give it your best effort. So we're saying, number one, you got to set expectations.
I agree. But also, you have to play that role to know and let that child know or be involved in education. As a coach, as a support staff, as a mentor, that young person needs to understand involvement in education means that homework is important. Mm-hmm. Talk to me about, man, when you go home every day, what do you do at home? Show me what you're doing at home. And being engaged in school. If I'm going around the school and the kids who are not doing what they're supposed to do, coaches have a lot of influence. And part of your coaching ought to be coaching the whole child, not just athletically, but coaching that child academically. Because I just shared with you, only 7% of high school students are going to play in college.
But remember, we got to keep that village now. But it's not just the coaches; all those other people, those mentors, all
That's
those
right.
people
That's right.
that are involved in their kids' life outside of the school setting. So, one of my favorites is to create that learning environment, and everybody that know how important that is. Everybody needs to have a place inside their home what they call study space, and it's not a punitive place. It's not where you send them when they did something bad or you're trying to punish them. It's a bright, well lit, clean, organized place that's called your learning environment. So you got to create that inside the home because the kids need that. Most successful kids have that, and they know exactly where it is, and they know that's where they go have success in studies. Then access to the resources. The
So-
resources got to be there.
So Tony, let's list a few of the, not the parent and not the teacher. List a few of those type of roles where people have an impact on children. You talked about the coach. Who
Oh,
else?
we started. We talked about dance instructors. We talked about the cheerleader coach. We talked about the band teacher. We talked about the scoutmaster. We talked about the
Drama
mentor.
clubs.
We talked about drama club. Anything that's a carrot. Anything that a kid you would assume a kid likes doing more than they would academics. They do that just because they love doing it. You don't have to force them to do it. It's something that they fall in love
So
with.
I would
My
say
acting
this.
teacher, anything.
I would say this to you. If they are not promoting literacy, if they're at the little league level, a part of playing football ought to be, let me see my coach read. Everybody, I want everybody to read 10, 15 minutes. Not something in school necessary. But if they see that this is important to the people who have influence, and I know we have a nonprofit that's coming out in the beginning of the new year that talks about literacy, reading, getting more black boys and black men involved in reading. And so I would just tell you, imagine a coach reading together with his student, with his athlete, with her athlete. Imagine if they read together. Imagine if, hey, today, guys, we're going to the library. Every young man,
Right.
every young lady is not going to make it in the WNBA. Every young person is not going to make it professionally to earn a living. And so keep on going, keep that carrot, but at the same time, focus on academics as well. And if you're not, look yourself in the mirror, coaches. And I'm using coaches, I mean coaches, I'm talking about dance instructors, or I'm talking about whoever's involved in it, band teachers, etc. If you're not as involved and talking about academics the way you're talking about these other things, then I say you're failing your child as well. That may be a bit controversial, and somebody told me, well, it's not the coach's responsibility. Yes, it is. Developing the entire child is all of our responsibility.
So one of the things we said is very important is one of my favorites is creating that learning environment. And we talk about a learning environment. Look at the space we're in right now. It's clean, it's organized. It's not a lot, and it's not that big, but you have a place, a proper place for everything. We're not talking about you're sharing it with the kitchen table, a dining room table. You got snacks here, and you got all these things. We're talking about an area that's identified that we call in our tool we call it designated learning lounge. So it needs to be comfortable, it needs to be kid friendly, and it needs well not kid but age appropriate. So if you got a desk in there for a kid or a bean bag for a teenager, they may want to sit in that lounge as they learn. But the atmosphere need to be set for them to say that this is where I come to learn and create this learning environment.
And you know, Tony, I just want to make sure everyone know that we're not just saying things just to be saying them. We actually have a tool that encompasses all the things that we're talking about. It's called the Parent Tool. And so it gives parents a roadmap on how to do the things that we're talking about.
Virtual,
So
online.
it's virtual, it's online, it's in English and Spanish. And you go to our website to get access to this Parent Tool that actually walks you through these things that we're talking about.
But you talked a little bit about Travis Hunter and his smarts.
Right.
Not the athlete, but the smart Travis Hunter. Tell us how that's all going to come together when that time comes.
Well,
if it hadn't already happened.
Well, it's already happening. I can already tell you that because the young man is doing extremely well. And I watched when he was playing with Jackson State. Here you have a young man who is rated as the #1 athlete in the country, the #1 recruit. He decides to go to a HBCU. Why did he go? Because he followed someone that knew he had a relationship with him called a coach. Coach Deion Sanders, we all hear about prime time. I'm a huge fan. But when I watch Prime Time is not just building athletes, he's building great young men. And so in the case of Travis Hunter, I was reading today how he's giving back some of his money to other athletes. He's graduating. He won the Heisman Trophy. He's going to be on so many commercials, endorsement deals, and et cetera.
Because of his athletic prowess or because of his academic prowess?
Both. Tony, I'm going to say, I mean, in his case, it's both, but yet, I can tell you, if Travis Hunter, God forbid, but if he couldn't play football, that young man could do so many other things. Because guess what? He's shown, first of all, he is a student-first athlete. Because the young man has almost a 4.0 GPA. And for me, when you see young men focus on that, that means somebody has been in his ear. Parents, the village, parents, coaches, mentors. He talked about all of them. And he recognized all of them, but yet they stayed with him, stayed on him, and they kept him humble. So now the young man is doing a whole lot of great things, not just for himself and his family, but he's giving back. You can't give if you don't have. And so we want to close out by saying all these things come together. And again, we're talking about that village as relates to, as you like to say, a kid can't read, what can he or she do?
You kind of alluded to one of these. One of the big things you got to be doing as one of those outside service providers and parents, you got to collaborate with the teachers. Make sure students understand this is a team effort. I'm not just your coach, but I know everything that's going on with your teacher. I'm not just your mother or your father. Well, not just, but not only am I your mother or father, but I need to know what's going on. So first we say it's a team effort. And then we address the issues. Once we find out what's going on, we got to collaborate with the teachers.
And that collaboration, if I know, and because let's face it, we're in the schools. Coaches, band teachers, others, when that kid finds something he or she likes doing, that kid is going to gravitate towards that person. If I love playing basketball, my coach has a heck of a lot of influence on me. If I love cheerleading, that cheerleading coach has a lot of influence on me. Band, art, acting, whatever. Why wouldn't they talk about academics? And if you're not doing it, again, I'm going to say this, and some people may disagree. I would say that you're not fulfilling your role in that child's life if a part of what you're doing does not encourage, enhance, support. I'm not talking about just talking about it. I'm talking about actively modeling it and making sure that academics, reading is just as important. If you're going to play with me, and I want some brilliant kids, I want you to understand how to read and how to do these things that we're talking about.
So dance instructors, band teachers, coaches, parents all around the world, if you're doing some of these things and we know that it's going on, we'd say reach out to us because we want to come see you. We want to come see those practices. We want to share them with the rest of the country so they can say, hey, look, this works. Coaches, if you got report cards, all your boys on your Pop Warner team, not just the high school team, if you can show us proof of that, we want to come see you. We want to highlight the fact that you're already doing these things because we say that village, we're not accusing people of not doing it. We're just saying that everybody doesn't know what's going on. So as we close out, my challenge is reach out, email, text, respond, reply in this particular podcast and say, hey, Tony, hey, Reggie, we're doing some of this stuff. Come see it, and we want y'all to share it with the rest of your audience.
But Tony, I will go a little further. Not just the ones that are doing it. We have the ability, resources to show you how to set it up as well. So we're not just saying go do it and watch other people. We're saying let us help you, show you a process for making sure, because there are some folks that are not involved in the school system. Little League. I'm saying that we have the ability to show you how to set those programs up so reading becomes fun, literature becomes fun. So as I close out again, I always say, all of us are in this together. It is not just the school fault or responsibility, shall I say. It is not just the parents. It's all of us that has touch points on our children. So on behalf of Two Men on the Stool, again, we want to say thank you to our audience. Thank you for supporting. Tell someone else about it, because ultimately, we're not talking about we have a kid problem, because we don't. We have an adult problem when our kids are failing.